So you're new to Transport Fever and you want to know how to make a little bit of cash early on in the simplest way possible. I've got you covered. In the next 5 minutes, I'm going to run you through the basics of setting up a passenger route between two cities using buses. Now, I'm starting off in the year 2000, but you don't have to do the same. This approach will work in just about any year you choose to start. The first thing you're going to want to do is check the land use in the city that you've chosen to start off in. Although strictly speaking, if you're going from a bare bones map like this one, you can start in the middle of town and you'll be absolutely fine. Every stop has a catchment area, and the catchment area early on from a bus stop is almost enough to cover the entire town. Now, for this particular method, we're going to be running a very straightforward point-to-point route. We're going to go from New York to Toronto and back again. Nothing too complicated about that. We'll just add a stop at each end, and that's it. I recommend giving your route a catchy name. Ideally something with a naming convention so that you can find all the routes of this kind easily later on. Now, this is very much a walk before you run kind of approach, so we're only going to run 2 buses on it to begin with. After buying your buses, you have a straightforward option available to you. You can fire them straight out to join the line. But this isn't necessarily the best way to go. While vehicles will space themselves out over time, you might want to do this manually in the first instance so that when one bus reaches one end of the route, the other reaches the other end of the route. This ensures that both of your buses will get maximum passengers on board every time they load up. And running with a full load is one of the most important things you can do in order to make a profit. The bus itself will cost you money every time you drive it from point A to point B. In fact, it costs you a little bit to run every month. But it's only with the delivery of passengers that you actually make any cash. So the more passengers you're carrying, the more cash you get. Now that our route is merrily underway, let's advance by a year and see how we've done. We started this route in April 2000. It's now April 2001. As you can see at the tail end of last year, we'd made a grand total of $15.7 thousand in income. That's not ideal, especially when the outgoing costs were significantly higher than that. In fact, over the course of the year, we spent a grand total of just over $1 million. This year, however, is looking a little bit more promising. We've got $111K in the bank already, and our running costs are around half that. The big hitter right now, however, is the loan interest. Where did the money go? Well, we spent $730 grand on buying new buses. They're not cheap. If you're starting in 1850, horses and wagons are significantly cheaper. But the money you get isn't as much either. However, it is a cheaper time to start. Now, the conventional wisdom is that in your first stages of the game, you should max out your loan and set up as many routes rather similar to this as you possibly can in order to bring in some money. They are, however, easy, and you can set these up and expand them greatly as time goes on. As you can see, we've got a ton of passengers waiting to be picked up here, more than our single bus can actually handle at once. So we could quite easily add more buses to this route and increase our income considerably. If we now advance 10 years, we can see how this route has developed over that time. Now, for the sake of this example, I've only kept 2 buses on the route. As you can see, the running costs have increased every year without fail. Income fluctuates a little, but that's because traffic fluctuates a little. Sometimes you might get one more or one fewer stop in the year. So here we are at the end of the 10-year period, and as you can see, we've been profitable every year. We're only midway through 2010 right now, but we haven't yet made it back to our $20 million starting pot. And that's purely because the loan interest that we've got has been wiping out most of the profits. Add to that running costs increase every year as well. To offset this, what you don't want to do is sit on a huge bank balance while at the same time sitting on a huge loan. I would have made more money if I'd run more buses on this route or set up other similar routes. The most effective way to do that is simply extend the route that you've got. So connecting New York or Toronto to an additional city and then running another point-to-point route that takes in the same stop would have increased my money. So instead of making between $30,000 and $80,000 a year, I would have been making a multiple of that. That wraps it up for this tutorial. I'll be back soon with another one. Why not subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on that, and fling a like at this one if you found it useful. I'm Colonel Failure. Thanks for watching. Cheerio!